Don't like DPNs? Magic loop is another way to knit smaller items like socks, hats, sleeves and toys in the round. Here's how to do it step by step. You just need one long circular needle, ideally at least 40 inches or 100 centimetres long. 32 inches or 80 centimetres works fine for very small tubes, and that's what I'm using in this demo. But if you're knitting something bigger like a sleeve, a longer cable is much better. It gives you more room to work and avoids stretching stitches. First, cast on as usual. I'm adding 20 stitches using the long tail cast on, which works well for knitting in the round. I've a 5-minute tutorial for that linked on screen now or below. There's 3 setup steps before you start knitting. With Magic Loop, you always work in half rounds, knitting half your stitches at a time. So step 1 is to split your stitches in half. Slide all your stitches down the cable and then count until you find the midway point. Pull out a chunk of cable between the middle stitches. So now you have half your stitches on each side with a loop of cable between them. Step 2 is to move your stitches to the tips so you can knit them. Lay your stitches across your left hand with the cable loop hanging out the left side. Holding the front and back halves of your stitches together in your left hand, push the needle tips left with your right hand so your stitches move towards the tips. Slide your stitches up until there are some stitches near the end of each tip, ready to knit. All your stitches don't need to fit on the tips. If you have many more stitches or short needle tips, the middle stitches will be down the cable. You just need the first stitches on the front and back to be at each tip. Finally, step 3 is to make sure there's no twists in your cast on. The long tail cast on has nice flat loops along the front. Open your tips like chopsticks to check you have purl bumps all around the inside too. Let's start knitting. I'll demo with stockinette, but you can use the same magic loop technique with any knitting stitch. Hold your 2 tips together in your left hand with the cable out the left side. This is your starting position for every half round of Magic Loop. Half your stitches are on the front tip and half are on the back tip, with your working yarn hanging down over the back. To join in the round and start knitting, you're going to knit the stitches on the front tip with the back tip. So, grabbing the tips together in your left hand, pull out the back tip with your right hand and bring it around to meet the front tip. Pull out plenty of cable so you can move the right tip around freely without feeling any restriction. That's why you need a long circular needle for Magic Loop. So you still have half your stitches at the front on your left tip, but the other half are now on your cable behind. Put your right tip into the first stitch on your left tip, ready to knit it. Check your working yarn is hanging down over the back and that you're grabbing both sets of stitches together, and then just knit the first stitch as usual. You've just joined in the round. Yay! No need to check for gaps. Don't overthink it. Just go ahead and knit the rest of the front stitches as usual. So now you've knit your first half round. The front stitches are now all on the right tip, and your left tip and cable are empty. Next you need to knit the other half of your stitches lying behind on the cable. But how do you get to those? Well, you turn your knitting over to bring them from the back to the front. So now you have a loop of cable to the left, the second half of your stitches on the cable, and the back of the stitches you just knit on the needle tip behind. But how do you knit stitches on a cable? Well, you can't. So you need to move these stitches up to the needle tip. So take the empty needle tip in your right hand and push it left until your stitches are near the end of it. This can be a bit tricky in round 1 when your stitches are tight. But hey presto! Now you're back in your starting position, with cable on the left side, the next stitch is on the front tip and the other half on the back tip. So you're ready to knit again. The good news is there's nothing new left to learn. It's exactly the same as knitting the first half of the round. So hold both tips in your left hand and pull out the back tip with your right hand. Bring it around to meet the front tip, making sure you've plenty of cable to work with. Now making sure you're grabbing the front and back stitches together in your left hand, with your working yarn hanging over the back, knit the first stitch on the left tip with your right tip. Then just knit across the rest of the stitches as usual, until your left tip is empty. So after knitting 2 halves, you're back at your cast on tail, and that's the first round all done. There's a bit of a gap between the start and end of the round at this stage. Don't worry, that will sort itself out later. On to round 2. Every half round is the same, but magic loop is a different way of knitting, so let's see it again so it really clicks. So your left tip is empty and you've already knit the front stitches. Step 1 is to turn your knitting over to bring the back stitches to the front. Next we need to move the stitches to the needle tip so we can knit them. So step 2 is to push the empty front tip left until your stitches are on it. Now you're back in the starting position with half your stitches on each tip. Step 3 is to pull out the back tip and bring it around to meet the front tip. And finally, step 4 is to grab the front and back stitches together in your left hand and knit half around. While knitting with magic loop, you always have a big loop of cable hanging out each side, like Mickey Mouse ears. It looks strange, but once you get the hang of it, you don't notice it at all. That's another half round done. Let's finish round 2. Each half round of magic loop knitting is just 4 simple steps. Step 1, flip your knitting over. Step 2, push the empty needle tip left to move your stitches to the front tip. Step 3, pull the back tip out and around to meet the front tip. And step 4, holding the front and back stitches together, knit the front stitches. With just 2 rounds done, we've already knit a neat little tube with no sign of where the mid round is. There is still a gap at the end of the round, but that will fix itself after you knit a bit more. Here's how it looks after 6 rounds, and most of the gap has gone like magic. If you tug your cast on end and weave it in, you won't see it at all. The top few rounds always look a bit loose at the end of the round, but that just fixes itself as you knit on. Here's a few more magic loop tips. Tip 1. It's best not to leave your stitches on the tips between knitting sessions, in case they stretch or even fall off. The easiest option is to just slide your stitches a bit down the cable by pulling both tips out. Then you just push the tips to the left to slide your stitches back up to the tips when you want to start knitting again. Tip 2. You can easily try on socks, hats and sleeves as you knit for a perfect fit. Just slide your stitches all the way to the middle of the cable so they make a proper 3D tube. You can also leave your stitches there between knitting sessions, but especially for small tubes, that could cause some stretching at the end of the round if you leave it a while. When you want to start knitting again, you split your stitches in half, just like after you cast on. Find the halfway stitch, yank out a loop of cable at that point, and push both needle tips left to move the stitches up onto them. Finally, When you're knitting in half rounds over multiple sessions, it's easy to get confused about where you are in the round. So tip 3 is that the cast-on tail marks the start of the round. Every time you get back to the cast-on tail, you're at the end of the round. Whereas, if your cast-on tail is at the left side when you start knitting, that means you're halfway through a round. A handy way to remember this is when the cast-on tail is on the left, it means you have stitches left in the round. I hope this video helps you get started with magic loop knitting. Got any questions? Just comment below. Thanks for watching.